tweeted and tagged you.
Cool.
So you just get those up. All right. Hello, everybody. We have a few people in here already. I saw comments from a few. Sabrina in first, +3 points. Absolutely. Palms are sweaty for Yali. Diego says, good evening. Can't believe we won this. Yeah, there's a lot to get into. We're going to let people filter on in from Twitter, from all over the place as we're streaming live right now here. Listen, make no mistake about it. We were talking about it during the spaces, during the podcast in the middle of the week. Go check it out with Fabio from Milan Weekly, Milan Coast to Coast. He was a great guest. As someone mentioned in the comments section, who needs Red Bull when you have Fabio on? That's how much energy he brings. He was a great guest for us. But yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Hopefully, we're becoming one of the bigger Milan English-speaking channels in the world, and it's all a credit to you guys and your support, and that comes from liking, commenting, subscribing, and giving us your thoughts as usual. I'll get into the actual man in the match poll when we get there, but again, 1-0 victory over Fiorentina. Milan and Pioli's backs kind of against the wall. Poor results, especially recently in Serie A, as we have mentioned. Udinese, Lecce, the 2-0 blown lead against Napoli, the 1-0 10-man loss against Juve. There's just been so many poor results. Milan survived without one of their best players, actually their best player, Rafael Leao, Matt. 1-0 wasn't pretty, but a win is a win is a win. So go for it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there wasn't really much positive to take away from this match. Theo's penalty, basically the highlight. If you were putting together a highlight reel of Luka Jovic's time at Milan, it would literally be that only pass to Theo before he got the penalty. Other than that, he's been Casper. He's been the ghost.
Well, we'll get it. We'll get into him, but yeah.
Mike Maignan, heroics. He had like a Jekyll and Hyde type second half though, because like he would have
in the first half. He Beltran almost took it away from him on that one play. Where it hit out to the side, where it almost got taken away from him with that front pressure. But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and obviously Francesco Camarda making his debut as the youngest ever Serie A.
Yeah, I did say that. Can you imagine? I underestimated that. They called me crazy for saying May, and we're here November 25th, and he's the youngest ever debutant. We'll get into that, but keep going with your thoughts. Just don't worry about the comments. I'll just keep pulling them up.
Yeah, I mean, it was just very indicative of where Milan are at currently under Pioli. 2023 really can't come to an end soon enough, to be honest with you, because I think in 2023, the very beginning, that was sort of the downfall of Milan. Their form has been dreadful, a lot of mistakes, losing a lot of points. They nearly had a disastrous draw, maybe even defeat in this one. And I think it really comes down to mentality. I truly think that this team really is scared to play ahead. No lead feels safe. 1-0, 2-0, shoot even 3-0 at this point, because I think that teams know that they can expose Milan for their flaws. And, look, you can say whatever you want about, they had Tomori back there, they have Malik Chow back there, you have Mike Maignan, you have Theo, you have Calabria. By all counts, this is pretty much your best back line that you can put out there. And you have your goalie. And look what type of performance they're still putting in there. I knew Fiorentina were going to have moments in the second half. I knew it. I basically tweeted out and said it's only going to be a matter of whether or not Milan can avoid the fatal error. And they bent so much, but did not break. And they barely didn't break, because this game could have been another disaster. 1-0, we'll take it. We'll move on. You have the game against Dortmund midweek in the Champions League. You can make a case, probably the most important game we've played to date this season thus far, when we consider what's resting on that match and what it ultimately means for the rest of our hopes for the group. And then we got Frosinone on the weekend. So
and then Atalanta after that. Yeah. Listen, results speak, right? How many times we talk about Juventus and the difficulties that they go through, and piss poor play, even the victory against us. But how we long for results that end up in 3 points. That's all that matters. Ugly results and multiple Scudetti that you and I have witnessed, and I'm sure many others in the comments that have been fans for a very long time, even dating back to the 2010, 2011. And it's really funny because, listen, not defending any of this play, the results, and everything that's been going down the past 18 months or so, right? But I will say this: when the statistic came out prior to Milan's match today about how they were in danger of losing 3 straight home matches in Serie A for the first time since 2006. How we yearn for those glory days, right, in the mid 2000s where Milan was better than anyone. But it shows you what the record was actually like in Serie A. Milan has not historically, I would say, within the 21st century, struggle mightily when it comes to Serie A, and there's fixtures and performances like this that kind of make you recall that. But hey, man, it's 3 points. That's it. A lot of key absences, not a lot of options on the bench either. And again, all that matters is that, like you said, the old school saying of bend, don't break defense. I thought Milan actually put in a good defensive performance. It really had everything to do with the attack and the midfielders. I thought Pulisic played well. We do have the poll up of the man of the match. I think Pioli was trying to conserve him, and I think it made a lot of sense with Dortmund in the middle of the week. You don't really have Leao to play on that left wing. Chukwueze obviously going to get that start again. You get at least Giroud back for that. We're going to have more or less the same midfield. No Musa for that. He's suspended. Theo getting that penalty. I think it should have been a red card. I think it's a bit ridiculous that we didn't see one there. I think it was a clear denying chance of a goal scoring opportunity. But of course, there's only one fan base that wanted to bitch and moan about that. Shaky midfield play. I thought the 3 midfielders that we deployed today are far too similar, Matt, and they don't link up well. Like, I like Reinders individually, I like Musa individually, but those two coupled with Tommaso Pobega isn't necessarily a recipe for success against a side like Fiorentina. I know, again, Pioli limited option wise, but what did you kind of make of that? I mean, Pobega was laboring out there today, for being honest.
He's one of those players that, when people say, they run like they have work boots on, he really does. I feel the ground shaking when he runs. He runs so heavy. It's like it takes him forever to get to where he wants to go. If it's him in possession, if it's him trying to cover space, this guy is the worst midfielder Milan have in the roster, at least from where he could be deployed. He's very limited in that sense. His qualities are very limited. I know he does some things that maybe you like, Pioli likes, but at the end of the day, him playing key games is not really where Milan want to be. I know they have injuries. I know they're trying to rest players ahead of Dortmund. I get all that. They're banged up, but make no mistake about it, this guy doesn't really guarantee or give you much assurances. I, for one, looking at how this game played out, I actually would have preferred someone like Yacine Adli. I thought that the way that Fiorentina likes to play quicker, they like to put guys forward. The match seemed to get too end to end. The tempo of it really wasn't what Milan want, and they were sort of chasing the game at certain points, especially towards the back end of the match. So you almost wanted a guy that can control the ball, that can, pick his spots, retain possession in that way. And I know perhaps that maybe Pioli liked the fact that Pobega is a little bit more defensive minded than Yacine Adli, who, we know he can pass the ball around. We know he does some things really well. But maybe in a game like this where it was so back and forth with possession and chance creation, maybe that's what Pioli's mindset was. But I would agree with you. I think that there really wasn't anything harmonizing with the midfielders we had. So one, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, man, when he isn't playing, I know we touch on, Benacer and certain guys, and I get all that. But when Ruben Loftus-Cheek isn't playing, we've seen this year how much Milan drop off in the midfield from a dictation standpoint, from a game management standpoint, and ultimately from a way that he kind of binds that midfield together and is able to, use his veteran presence and experience to, ensure the game doesn't get out of hand and get completely overrun in the midfield, because we really didn't feel like we had anything in the midfield for large parts of this game. So the Benacer's return really can't come soon enough. Of course, we have to see what he can give us. but we really do need someone like him in the midfield very soon.
Yeah, I disagree with the Pobega. The great defensively, I think, is a drastic overstatement. He couldn't even complete 70% of his passes today. His touches are always so poor. Even if you want to say it was a mediocre defensive performance, there was a couple of counterattacks caused by his play. I think Pobega is what he is at this point in time. I think he's a fifth or sixth choice option at a club like Milan.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a regular starter here. And with that, I understand you have to have homegrown players. It's nice to have Italian players. But again, the standard is good enough for Milan, not Italian. That's not how it goes. That's not the way it's ever been. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. You have to be good enough to play here. I think Pobega, if they, again, like I've said, they want to keep him fifth, sixth choice, whatever. So, and the same goes for Krunic too. I'm not even a Krunic apologist. Like the same applies to him and a couple of these other guys. We've seen enough right now. And for me, yeah. And this is a great point as well. And I think we all agree with this. And it was highlighted in the match against Dortmund specifically because Reinders slotted into that Regista role was the fact that he is not a defensive midfielder. So putting him in a spot like that really takes away from a lot of his positives. So we'll move on to the bigger stories here today. And the bigger story was this: the opportunity for Luka Jovic. Good enough job on that assist to set up Theo Hernandez. You got to give him credit there. Like we do, we try and be fair here. But that was kind of it. That 1v1 chance where they pulled that offside trap was horrific. There was no ball placement there. He hits it on his weaker left foot too. It's almost like he was surprised that he was getting a great opportunity like that, which in turn is to why he really has stumbled and stalled in his career, is that he doesn't finish chances. He really lacks goal scoring ability. And this is why he was this last second shot clock kind of move from Milan at the transfer window, like something we talked about midweek and you highlighted. The chances are going to be dwindling now for him, especially if Milan look to reinvest come January. You have Okafor, you have Giroud. And if, Francesco Camarda keeps on going the way he's going, and again, we'll get into him in a second here, Jovic isn't going to have a job at Milan very soon. So your thoughts on this performance today? So, I mean, he did set up the only goal, so we have to give him credit.
Yeah, but I mean, I think ultimately, I think that failed attempt is really, it's just a sign of a striker really not confident. I mean, you'd think that, look, we touched on, well, he came in late, and, even him in his introductory presser said he's not ready. Pioli said he was not ready. And then he's been gradually getting minutes. So you have a match like this where Giroud suspended, and you have a 15-year-old as essentially the other guy, and of course, Okafor being injured as well. So they're really and you're against your former team, right? And Ricardo Sotil, there was a quote that came out in the summer how, they were disappointed, and paraphrasing here, they were disappointed to see him leave because they see he was very, very talented, very gifted, and all that stuff. And you see him have these sorts of misses, and it scratches your head to thinking that this guy once played and had a big move for Real Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's shocking to me because that is a goal that you simply have to score. I don't care if you're a professional footballer, that has to be a goal. Of course, though, Milan can never make it easy, right? They can never make it 2-0 and Milan put this thing to bed. No. Of course he was going to miss that. Of course he was, right? Of course he was. Kicks it right at him, doesn't pick a side, just looks like he's very I'm going to try to flick it over him. Maybe I get lucky and it bounces into the back of the net. This is a problem. This is really a huge problem for Milan. And I really don't know, if we're being honest, what this position looks like going forward, right? Are we going to spend the money on a striker? I don't see it in January. Do we go and get a insurance guy because we don't want a 15-year-old being like we're teetering between one injury where Camarda's our backup striker. Okafor's not a true striker. If Giroud goes down, knock on wood, he's 37, Camarda's your backup striker. He's your backup striker behind Luka Jovic, who doesn't score goals. Right? Like that's a major problem when you put it into that perspective. So when you see him not convert those chances, it's appalling to me. It's literally appalling to me. And I know someone mentioned Chukwueze. Like where's the goal? Where are the goals coming from? Where is the inventiveness from this attack? Where is the cutting edge, the killer instinct that we saw in early parts of this season? Where Pulisic, I know Pulisic did some nice things. He's been kind of injury, then he came back, and then all these sorts of things. I get that, but this team right now really does lack the killer instinct to score goals. They lack the conviction up front to be efficient. And look, I just don't know from top to bottom really what type of performance we're going to get on a consistent basis. And when the chances are very slim and the clear-cut chances are very slim, Luka Jovic has to make that. And these misses become that much more magnified. Had we lost this game or tied, everyone would have been coming for Jovic's neck like they already are now. They would have said, how do you miss that? I got nothing left to say. I mean,
there is nothing left to say. And by the way, that was
a striker up front. We're going to continue to have this conversation
all season. That was his first shot on target, and arguably,
and that's what he does with it.
Yeah, it's one of the best opportunities.
And even Davide Calabria. If you want to mention another instance where Jovic could have did something else, Jovic gets into a decent spot in the first half. All Calabria has to do is square the ball to him, and it's a tap-in goal. It's probably the easiest goal that Luka Jovic will ever have, next to the one that he missed, and Calabria kicks it right at him. Like when they get in the final third, man, this team really struggles.
The brain shut off. It's like you black out after your 10th double vodka. It's insane. But to transition and talk about one of the bigger pieces of news and pieces of history, actually, for being serious here. Francesco Camarda, Milan's young superstar that we have basically been talking about for a couple of years now, becomes the youngest ever player to debut in Serie A at 15 years of age. He doesn't even turn 16 until March 10th. We've talked about him an ample amount of times on this podcast and YouTube channel, read tons of articles about how prolific of a goal scorer he was at the youth level, and then basically going up every level that has kids 2 to 3 years older than him. And every single time he reaches that level, he exceeds the expectations, so much so that he gets his debut today against Fiorentina. Matt, this was one of the more special things that we've ever seen. Maybe not he becomes one of the best players in this club's history, and that's a big thing, right? But we will say this. One of our very own, got to debut and become one of the youngest ever debutants in football history is incredible. And to see that look on his face where he walks on the pitch, like just trying to hold it in together. Like, this is a child, guys. Like, he is 15. They had to get an exemption for him from the local government just to approve him to play with this. And to be honest with you, I'm very surprised Milanisti did not make child labor jokes regarding this one, because you would not be surprised playing for Milan in this that guys would be saying something like that. Listen, there isn't too much to take away. I'm actually surprised with the amount of minutes that he actually got. I thought maybe he would get something in stoppage time if there was a multiple goal lead. But that also speaks back to volumes on what Luka Jovic is as a player. To have him as a player not be good enough to stay in for 90 minutes and Camarda has to come in? Is it something with the pressure with Pioli that he felt that he needed to put him on here? I do think, however, when a player like this comes in, and whether he produces or not is one thing, it injects a sort of energy into the club that is kind of rare. It's like in the middle of the season in baseball when younger players get called up from the minor leagues and they inject this new sort of energy that's there because they're debuting as professionals for the first time. They have something to prove more than anyone else does on the pitch. To just see that happen in general, regardless of what happened on the pitch, was a special moment because that's been all of our dreams, to play for this club, let alone at 15 years of age, and to be that good, scoring crazy bicycle kicks. Number 73, we could work on that. I'm sure he'll get a better number in the future. But Francesco Camarda, man, I mean, special moment, huh?
Very special. I think, look, there really wasn't much else to take away from the match itself. He don't even really know if he got any touches. I know he was more or less.
He had a couple touches. He basically got bullied off the ball. Gave away. Magnan had to smother it with Icon.
He didn't get really any touches in decent areas. It was more so a game Milan were just trying to preserve and hang on to, which has kind of been the theme for a while now. So there really wasn't much to take away from his performance. But it was a great moment, right? I think, look, we're from a football fandom perspective. This is what makes this sport so special. You don't see this in any other sport. You won't see a 15-year-old making a debut in baseball. You won't see it in basketball. You won't see it in NFL, obviously. This is really the only sport you'll see a 15-year-old making a senior team debut, and he's doing it at a club like AC Milan. He's not doing it in a third division, fourth division, which is impressive in its own way. He's doing it for AC Milan at the San Siro, and the entire fan
against a
base
team that can compete in Europe.
erupts for this kid. Like, if you're him and you're sitting there, like, you get the call, like Pioli calls you in, and you're like, oh, you're getting ready to have the number go up, and you're ready to go into the game. And you're probably, I just would love to know what's going through his head. I'm sure we'll get maybe some quotes from him. I don't know. He's a kid. I don't know what he would say. But
What
just
can
to
you
kind of
say,
see how
right?
like he processes that is crazy. And now the funny thing is too, is that we obviously had GGO make his debut at 16 years ago, right? But GGO is like, he was 6'4", 6'5". Like, he looks like a man at that point.
He
Maybe he
was
had a baby,
already, yeah.
but he's a big guy. So like, it looks a little bit different. When you see Camarda, he looks like someone that like you just saw in school, and you're like, all right, like, yeah, oh, this kid can play. Let's pick him up for our pickup.
I mean, look at this. I got something here real quick. We're just gonna
Yeah.
share it, everybody. With this. So this is prior to kickoff. I mean, look, is this not a kid? He's got pimples on his face, very shy and timid, just happy to wave to people into the stands, recording everything on his phone, because
And of
that
course,
is,
it's Adley right there. Like,
yeah, and Adley right there with
Adley
him.
would be the guy that would like be like, all right, like,
He's a
I'll show
locker
you
leader.
around, and like be kind of his biggest
Yeah,
cheerleader and supporter. So
Xenon, he's tall right now for his age bracket, but physically he's still not
he's still
there.
like a
What
slender
Matt was
kid.
kind of saying was that like Donnarumma was already like physically a professional. Same goes for like a LeBron James. When LeBron was in high school, Zion Williamson, there's guys like that. There's
There's
athletes
guys
out
that are
there.
like full
Yeah,
out, like they're
fully
ready. Like,
developed physically. This kid is not fully there yet physically and skill wise, but he's so talented,
yeah,
kind of in both, that he's able to get that debut. And again, Fiorentina's no slouch. This isn't Lecce. This isn't Frosinone. This isn't Empoli. This is one of actually the better sides in
they
Serie
were
A, a
it's coming
strong
into
defensive
to the
side. And again, not an easy situation. Milan are barely holding on to a lead at this point.
Yeah.
One mistake from him could have cost them the actual result that we've seen. Someone like Musa just recently against Lecce. It can happen to young players. So for him to just get those minutes, get the jitters out of the way, probably gets called up for one more match before he continues to develop with the youth team, because Giroud's suspension and Okafor isn't going to be back anytime soon. So again, that's kind of the situation there. I'm just happy to see that. And even when he was subbed on the pitch, I would love to show the video, but I don't want to get a copyright strike on the YouTube channel. That's why we uploaded through different channels on Twitter for that. But your man of the match, Santangelo, if you do have one.
It's Mike Maignan. And obviously I touched on it. He had a really chaotic second half where you looked like he was going to be the one committing the fatal error that leads to a goal. And he managed to pull out his heroics like he's done so many times. And, look, these are one of the matches that you look at and you think, man, this guy's irreplaceable. Like, if we were talking ever about, how would you sell Maignan? Like, what offer would be sufficient for you to sell Maignan? Like, it's hard to find a keeper of this quality, of this class, that, look, when Milan really just don't have their best football available for them, and they have a lot of injuries, and they're clearly struggling to survive and hold on to wins, and he pulls off what he did, it's priceless. I think, having a goalkeeper of that quality, that caliber, is difficult to come by. So, I think it kind of puts, again, a lot into perspective of just how valuable a top flight goalkeeper can be, in bailing out your defense and giving your defense confidence, and ultimately being that last line of defense that can really decide the outcome of matches on his own. And, I would give it to him as the man of the match. And you probably would maybe say Theo. I don't really know who else.
So I have a poll up if you want me to get to it.
Yeah,
so I just ended it. Guys, like up the video if you have not already. Just 13 likes. 68 of you in the chat. We would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, Mike Maignan, 66%. Theo, 16%. Pulisic, 12%. And I said comment other. That only really got 4%. But yeah, Maignan overwhelmingly the man of the match. I think Pulisic, if he plays a full match, was definitely the best attacker, best overall outfield player, in my opinion. Theo was very shaky, especially at the start, but ended up turning it on and provided a good cross into Chukwueze as well, who had a decent header. I think Chukwueze, by the way, again, yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I think the pressure is going to mount. There's only a finite amount of opportunities that he'll be getting. I think he still needs to assimilate himself. Again, I think partially with this, he's not with the best 11s. He's not working with the best players, but the things that are under his control are really poor. He loses the ball easily. You saw a lot of that in the first half. I thought he looked much better in the second half, but you're still waiting for that full 90-minute performance. And again, it's funny because it's like every single time we say Chukwueze or a newer player like that does poorly, we're sort of like, yeah, but so were the rest of the guys. I'm tired of just saying that in general.
Yeah,
so
someone's got to step up.
I hope we can move on from that. I'm really sick of it. I guess look ahead to the next week or so. Again, just like to highlight before we talk about Dortmund and these other things, is that our podcast is more than likely going to be recorded on Friday for the next few weeks. So look out for that. Fortunately, I start a job, but unfortunately that means I can't be recording the usual times that we would like to on Wednesdays, but we'll be holding off for Fridays and try and get reactions as soon as possible. If I'm off, I'll notify everybody as best I can with that. But we'll see. I think weekends will be good for now, so I could go live after Serie A matches, so that will be nice. Look ahead to Dortmund. Backs against the wall still. The foot does not stay off the gas with this. I think Pioli actually did a decent job today of rotating players with this. The substitution of Pulisic made a lot of sense, and Milan held on. That's where that kind of risk-reward works out in a situation like this, where you have to sub a player like that off, doesn't pick up an injury, club picks up 3 points. Hey, well-positioned. Lazio lost today. We see Atalanta lose some
points. And then
points.
You have Inter and Juventus
tomorrow. So regardless of that, the two teams in front of us, one of them will be dropping points, and Milan will have a positive week in Serie A. And, that's all you ask for week to week, right? Regardless of how that went down, I know.
The one thing you hope for, too, is, look, we've been sliding down the table. I know this was a very sloppy, unconvincing performance, and it's been kind of a theme now for the better parts of the last month and a half. But at the end of the day, just to see some upwards movement in the table, I think could do a world of good for this team. And I think if we're talking about like objectives and we're talking about where we need to be, I think just getting on through finishing up the year in a favorable spot. If we can win, again, ifs, hypotheticals. If we could beat Borussia Dortmund, we're at home. That's big. I do like the fact that we're at home, and we can handle Frosinone, who have some players that are dangerous that can beat us. They have an Ibrahimovic there, so that should be fun. If we could just handle our business, get on through to finish up the year, I think with us finishing up the year in some hopefully positive form, getting a lot of
back very soon,
getting these guys back, I think we might be in a more decent spot to start 2024 in much better fashion and much better manner than we did start 2023. So that's kind of where I'm looking at, guys. I don't want to look too far ahead. I feel like we got through to the more difficult sectors of the first half of the season. Dortmund, Frosinone, those are the focuses right now. I think if you somehow manage to beat Dortmund, we're capable of putting forth a great performance. We're not going to have Rafael Leao, but if you can get a victory there and you somehow are able to navigate with all these injuries onto the knockout round, I mean, all things considered, you'll take that given how pretty much every day we have someone on the shelf with an injury.
Yeah. Again, look at the standings right now. So you widen the gap with a couple of these sides that have played enough. Roma lurking behind with 8 points. We have a game in hand of them. Obviously, Lazio behind. They're really in a rough spot right now. 9 points behind Milan already. Milan are well positioned. If we just want to head on over to some of the fixtures that we got coming up. So again, Dortmund, Frosinone, Atalanta, then Newcastle to round out the Champions League group stage. And to finish off the month of December, we have Monza, Salernitana, and Sassuolo. Please, I'm begging. I am begging. 6:30 a.m. against Monza, by the way. So that's a Lorenzo Colombo brace inbound, guys. So again, The important news is that we are likely to see a debut of Benacer for this season against Atalanta. That's what he is on track for. Worst case for Rafael Leao, also back in that game. That would be big. You'd love to have him back against Atalanta. I think that obviously is a massive fixture. We don't need to talk about that. This is not surprising if you follow Milan. Theo gets the penalties. He's a seniority type of player within this squad. He'd also deserve it off of merit. Pulisic just got here. It's a very big club. There's a lot of good players. He's going to be below in the pecking order. And I don't think really Pulisic is that much off of form. I think he's really actually been affected physically by the schedule.
He would probably be second then, right? Like, let's say
today, I think if Theo wasn't there, I think Pulisic absolutely takes it compared to the other players here. You have no confidence in Reinders. Pobega ain't getting it. Chukwueze isn't getting it.
The idea of Pobega taking the penalty off.
That's what I'm saying. Even his run-ups to the penalty in full speed are slow. For him, he's just not going to see that. Again, you like to escape games like this where you're missing key players against a relatively top side in Serie A. It's 3 points. I'm happy. I'm not going to be stressing too much. I think it's a positive day all around for Milan. And again, no injuries there. You just can't sell Theo there. It's a whole extended conversation for another day. But I like the guy. Again, I am gonna have to vastly disagree on this. He had the best chance of the match, and he blew it.
We disagree, and but I think the last part of that is perfectly valid. That's a perfectly valid stance, Paul. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. I think there are instances. To be fair, there are instances, and I just highlighted it, Paul. Like Jovic is in the right spot. Calabria doesn't give him the proper service which most people would be able to deliver into Jovic's foot, and he kicks it right out to Terracciano. So, like, I get it. Like, that's completely valid. But we have to take everything into context here, and the fact that look at some of the other performances Jovic had. He's non-existent. He doesn't really get involved the way you wanted to get involved. And when he does have his one moment, he just failed to convert it. So, I mean, I think that this is, again, where Milan at currently, unfortunately, with him. In January, I don't see Milan doing anything in January. I don't see Jonathan David.
I do.
You do?
I think they do. I think they absolutely do. I'll be honest with you, yeah. I think they have money left over from the summer market. I think there's a left back that comes in. He had one chance.
Striker. No, I'm talking striker.
Oh, striker. Sorry. Oh, striker. No, they're not spending 40 million on Jonathan David with that. But just to come back to Paul's point really quick, since you highlighted it, he had one chance. His chance was the easiest chance in the world, and he blew it. He sucks. He's not good. You have to finish it. You have to finish the chance. I'm sorry. I don't give a damn. This guy's flopped at Real Madrid. Fiorentina literally said go for nothing. They literally just let him leave they didn't want him no money. They said you could just have him. Do you realize that? Do you understand how bad you have to be as a professional? Paul, I respect your opinion and all that, but my God, that chance was as easy as you could ever expect a professional to get. And the fact that he couldn't finish it was just abysmal. And I really just don't mean to get on you, Paul, with this. It's just there's some things that are indefensible. That's one of them. That's an indefensible type of play. Again, with the Calabria sent in a couple crosses today that were garbage. There was one at the beginning of the first half where he sends it in towards the middle and it drifts in, where I think Musa was the trailer at the top of the box and it just went to absolutely nobody. Fiorentina intercepted it. And again, yeah, whatever. Okay, he made the nice run in the box. That's the only thing he's done. And may I remind you, that miss is still his only shot on target this year. The only shot on target. We're talking about a striker here that's making a couple of $1 million. This is someone that they're relying upon to at least step up in a moment like this. And he's not good enough that a 15-year-old has to come on and be the youngest ever debutant. That's how much faith Pioli has. And Pioli never plays young players. I'm sorry, Paul. It's just the reality of it. This guy reeks. He stinks. And we got accounts on Twitter defending his job, saying, oh, yeah, nobody does anything for Jovic. Come on, guys. I'm sure Francesco Camarda might even have younger siblings, or his teammates at the U15 level could finish that chance. Seriously. I mean, we're talking about the standard at AC Milan here, competing for a top 4 spot. And what Matt mentioned was, we were lucky not to concede today. And if they did, And if Milan were to have dropped points, where does the finger point go to, right?
Him.
It's always the guy who makes a mistake or doesn't capitalize. Jovic is that guy. Jovic is a problem. And I got to be honest with you, I'm okay with and I gave credit to him for that link up setup assist. Like, you could go back on this podcast, you can go back in the spaces, Matt, you heard me say it. Like, listen, I give credit where it's due, but there's stuff that is inexcusable. And this guy consistently lives up to that billing of one of the bigger flops in Real Madrid history and one of the bigger flops that we've seen in football history, especially recent memory. Okay. I just, to me, there's just no excuse for a guy like that. There's just not. He's going to get another opportunity. I think he probably starts against Frosinone again, considering because Giroud is out. Heck, if it was my decision, you start Pulisic false 9, you have Chukwueze on the right, and then Leao's on the left if he's healthy enough. That's what you do, because it's that dire, it's that poor. But we'll see what happens. And again, Paul, it's just I'm more frustrated in general with this guy. It's not really on him, on you that I'm upset about. Again, Jovic is just abysmal, and we've seen other players like do more and get less or get more hate, right? Mm-hmm. Like how many times have we actually seen players like kind of produce? Like even Pobega's had a better job at Milan. Heck, man, it's really scary to just see someone like Jovic like that. Again, one shot on target for this guy. But it's not great. It's garbage. And Paul, just real quick with that too, you're getting paid over $1 million. I think a player who gets paid over $1 million should be able to finish that chance. You know, I'm not asking for like, oh, I need amazing link up play, I need back heels, I need you scoring off corners. Bruh, I need you to finish a one-on-one where you have one of the best opportunities ever. Maybe he thought he was offside. Goal scorers should never think like that, right? Even if you're fouled, you're not fouled. Even in the NBA, right? How many times do we see guys still shoot? You want to see the ball go through the basket. You want to see the ball go in the back of the net. Why? Because it's a great mental reminder that you scored. Even if it wasn't technically a goal, you still do it. You finish off the play every single time. Don't make assumptions in a sport that has marginal calls and delayed calls. You play to the whistle. And that's pretty much all I have to say with that. And Gecko says it's $2.5 million net. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
think
the player just infuriates me. I think
it's like Paul, Martino, you, me, like it's just, I think like we've been through this conversation so much with strikers and not having the really dependable guy. I mean, Giroud, obviously, like he's done the job, but generally speaking, we haven't had the success in this position. It's just the frustration's been mounting. And when you see like, oh, wow, like Jovic, like he finally gets a clear-cut chance. And like, that's what you give me. It's just frustration. It's just frustration with the position. It's frustration, the fact that we can't get our guy up top to get goals consistently. Okafor, Adam, one.
No. He's a different striker that he's referring to, Marcus. That we've been linked to him. The striker market again with Milan, I think, is going to be opportunistic just for the time being. It's going to be a significant investment eventually. Eventually, I think it'll be a significant investment, and with that, you want to make sure the price is right. You want to make sure the timing is right and the fit is right. I don't think paying $40 million for Jonathan David come January makes sense when you can get less and you can carry on through. Heck, what happened to the days of just loaning in a guy from somewhere, or just pay a higher loan or something? You know, it's just like a loan with option. By the way, someone brought up Broja, who I think is a definite possibility still. But
Armando Broja, yeah, maybe. I mean, Chelsea are a disaster.
I think they're going to go for Ivan Toney come January, and once his suspension's up, they sign Toney, and then Broja doesn't really have a starting role. It's going to be him, Nicholas Jackson there. I don't think they're going to stick with him. And by the way, a key deal that David Ornstein talked about, he signed with Puma, so he has that sort of relationship. By the way, very similar and same type of deal that Christian Pulisic has with Puma. Who has a big deal with Puma? AC Milan. Just connecting the dots.
I just think it's your options, if we're speaking briefly on, and then I think this topic, I just beat it to a pulp at this point. But if people think we're going to go after a striker, or we're going to be able to get our guy in January, you're out of your mind, because I think that everyone knows that how dire Milan's situation is up top, how much they need goal production, how much they need to find their guy. With Giroud being his 37 years old, his career kind of winding down. He might get extended for another year. Who knows? Everyone knows that Milan are desperate for a striker. You're not going to get you're not going to be able to cut any sort of deals in January. We're not going to be able to do this cheap loan with option to buy for the it guy. If they do anything, let's say someone gets injured and they need to go for a striker, it ain't going to be for a perennial top striker option. It's going to be someone in a pinch, just like they did with Luka Jovic. And if we're being honest, I think that people, if we're speaking on this position specifically, this was the blemish, the big blemish of Forlani, of management in the summer. Not getting a striker. I know people are going to have their opinions on certain players we bought, but man, because we haven't been able to get our guy up top, and we're dealing with what we're dealing with right now in a lack of production, and we're seeing what Jovic of the world is doing. We see how we have to bring in a 15-year-old. That's the big blemish on their summer market. If we don't get top 4 and we're struggling to score goals, people are going to say, I don't care that you got all those other players. You didn't get the striker. You didn't get the guy we needed up top. They're going to say that.
I know they're going to say that, but they're going to be wrong, because how many holes do you expect to actually fill in an off season? Seriously,
I understand that.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong. I'm saying that's what the narrative is going to be, because
no, I know.
struggling to score goals.
I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is like the people who are going to push that narrative are unfair, because how many times did we say over the summer, the both of us, hey, we have about 15 spots realistically that we need to have. That's a real number, by the way. 15 meaning get the players who are not good enough out, replace those players, fill in the spots of need, and then hope you even have enough money to do so. Like, they still need backup left backs. They need actual registas and backup registas. They need an actual striker. The right wing position's okay. The left wing spot is fine. And again, you're probably going to need another backup right back soon enough. Whatever that situation is with Kalulu. Talk about the multiple center backs as well. Like, there's a lot of stuff that still needs fixing. And then again, even if Giroud extends for another year, you still have a hole there, because Okafor's not a true striker.
I know.
That's my thing with this, is that like the only way to fix this, unfortunately, is either massive sales or you have to make a deep run in the Champions League again.
Again, we can play hypotheticals. We can play, after the fact here all we want. If you're looking at it right now, people are going to say, what people are going to say? Chukwueze was a flop. You could have used that 25 million on a striker.
Well, yeah,
I'm not saying they're right to be saying that, because hindsight's 2020. But how much would things look differently had you had, let's say, a Taremi up there in place of Chukwueze, where that money went? I'm just saying to you, everyone's going to play Monday morning quarterback with the entire market if things don't go according to plan and we don't get top 4.
Well, that's what they always do.
I know. I'm just saying that's what the conversation is going to be, because this position we can't fill. We simply can't fill.
Oh, I don't want Ricardo Pepe on loan. No offense. No, stop it. Pepe, no. Pepe's a disaster in Germany. I just also think doing well in Holland, but come on.
I just also think too, I think that people, and I say this all the time, I say this with coaching, I say this with striker targets. I want a striker. You want a striker. Everyone wants a striker. Everyone's aligned with wanting their guy and a striker up front. We all agree on that.
Yeah.
But every time someone tells us they need a striker, and then I go and say, all right, with our budget, right before we sold Tonali, give me a name. And they're like, and they'll say someone, and they're like, it's 60 million. We're not spending 60 million. That's breaking our transfer record by what? 18 million? I think Bonucci was 42 million.
No, Rui Costa.
Rui Costa. Right. No, what? 40, 42, 44, whatever. Like, we haven't broken that in years. Like, we didn't want to buy Vlahovic years ago before he moved to Juventus, and they wanted 60 million for him. Like, it's hard in this market to get a striker when we have, to your point, so many different needs.
Yeah. There's gonna be time to figure all that stuff out. We've been going for a little while here, 45 minutes. Apologies, George. There's so many comments that filter in, and we're just trying to pay attention. So they were joking about the Pepe stuff. Yeah, I don't really want any other CONCACAF players, guys. I don't want Santi Jimenez. Jonathan David, I think, could be okay at Milan. Don't want him for that price. Oh, you guys do not want to know my opinion on Josh Sargent. You do not want to hear it. So it's gonna offend many people. I have a no.
Yeah, Joe's
No
down
thanks.
for dude.
I'm sure Josh is a very nice kid. I think he's solid for US striker. Stay away from Milan. Stay away. You're not Milan quality. Rather Colombo any day of the week. But that'll pretty much wrap it up here. Next time we're gonna be able to talk about Dortmund, preview guys the match against Frosinone. But all in all, 3 points. Milan beat Fiorentina. We appreciate all of you regulars that are tuning in here for the podcast. Not just that, also for the live recordings, the shorts, everything. We appreciate you guys. It's a lot of fun to do so. Like, subscribe, comment. Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride so far. The road to 4,000 subscribers is on its way. I think we're under 200 right now. Thank you, Diego. Enjoy your night. Dappy, Game Central, George, hi, Matt's Markets, Gecko. Obviously, we saw Sabrina and a bunch of other people. If I forget, Josh Sargent needs to stay away from this team, George. He could go play for Fiorentina if he wants to.
Let's get Jordan Morris too, dude.
Oh my god, yeah. Let's bring Onyewu back as a defensive specialist for the club, right? So you could just start fist fighting people. And by the way, Camarda trains kickboxing, so I would stay away from him if I was a Gucci.
Yeah, I saw some funny. We're gonna see so many funny comments, but I saw like one someone posted about like Giroud watching Camarda come on, and it was a picture of Diego Lopez.
Wait, say that one again.
It was I think it was, what was it, Man Like Bona? I don't know if you guys are familiar with. You probably are familiar.
No. What was the thing again? Sorry.
It was the caption was Giroud watching Camarda come on, and it was a picture of
Diego Lopez. Yeah. Hey man, listen, Diego Lopez was a quality.
He was good for us. Yeah, he's a free transfer.
Diego Lopez, a lot of people don't realize this, ended Iker Casillas' career at Real Madrid. He was the reason he got bent. Yeah, you don't remember that? And then
I remember.
Then they got Keylor Navas, and Galliani was like, "Oh, okay, we'll take your goalkeeper." And then Diego Lopez just like fell down and allowed a goal, and then Donnarumma came in, and that was it. It was Diego Lopez was quality goalkeeper though. I enjoyed watching Diego Lopez. One of the few decent guys. Oh my God, Joe Scally. No thanks. No.
Balogun? Nah, it's not gonna happen. Obviously,
I think we're good with everything else.
Balogun, man. Balogun would have been a guy.
Josie Altidore is my least favorite American player ever. Talk about a guy who thinks he's someone he's not. My goodness. But Clint Dempsey's my boy. Clint Dempsey, the second greatest American of all time, behind Christian Pulisic. So we appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Again, you could just watch the full stream after this gets uploaded again, or you could just rewatch from the start. Again, our watch time and you guys, the amount that you guys watch us is incredible. We have great numbers. The analytics tell us so. So again, we appreciate your support. We hope to keep on expanding and make this a better experience for everyone involved. If you guys think we should add more stuff into the show, let us know. We should be having a nice guest come Friday. I have to text you about it, Sant'Angelo. But thank you guys all for the support. And thank you, Marco, by the way. I saw the comment. Let the MLS, if there is one MLS hater or snob hater on the planet, it's me. And if there's none, I'm dead. Other than that, we'll see you guys.